Music and Monsters.
You are watching Music and Monsters.
Music and Monsters, the art of Jace Whitman. Please visit www.musicandmonsters.com.
I've been watching you act. Well, I haven't seen your actual performances, but I've seen what you've been doing, working in the local scene. What advice would you give to first-time actors?
For first-time actors, my best advice would be don't go for the lead roles all the time. Sometimes the best characters are the bit parts. With every show that you do, you learn more, you grow more. You'll play leading roles, you'll play supporting roles, you'll play a role that you're on stage for all of 5 minutes. But from everything that you do, you learn. So don't strive for all the biggest, bestest parts, because everything's a learning experience.
Good advice. How do you approach your craft? Like, let's just say when you receive your script, what are the steps that you take?
So the first thing that I do is I build my character. I figure out how they talk, how they walk, how they hold their hands. A lot of people do backstories for characters. I don't think that particularly is helpful for most parts that I do. It's just you want to build the most realistic person that you can.
Yep. And just for the listeners, this is like a side-track thing. You and I have actually worked together, and I appreciate because I've worked with actors that were more method, and you're much more naturalistic. You're easy
Oh, well,
to
thank
work
you. I appreciate that. That's what I strive for.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Now changing it up, let's talk about music a little bit. What's your favorite concert experience?
So I have 3 actually. So I'm a huge Monkees fan.
Yes.
Yes, and so the first time I saw the Monkees in person was back in 2012, and it was one of the last concerts they performed before Davy Jones passed away.
Right.
And so I was very thankful for that opportunity. I got to meet him. He sent my tambourine, so I was very happy. And
awesome.
then, about a year after the fact, they went on tour again, and this time it was Peter, Mickey, and Mike had not been on the previous concert tour. And so collectively between those 2 shows, I got to see all the Monkees in concert. And then I saw The Damned in San Francisco back in 2000. Yeah, I love The Damned. They're one of my absolute favorites. And I saw them in San Francisco in 2015, and that was just the best. And one of my favorite songs that they do is their cover of Eloise. And during that song, I'm one of those girls that records, during a concert, because that's what I do.
Sure.
And I was right up front, and there was a point where Dave Banian, the lead singer, he came right over and leaned straight into my camera, and it was so great. I loved it.
I actually saw pictures that you'd posted online back. Like,
Yeah.
Dave Banian was like right there. Yeah.
Right
That's
there.
Pretty cool. So now switching it up, let's talk about movie monsters. What's your favorite movie monster and why?
Well, if we're talking about classic Universal monsters, I'm a huge fan of Bela Lugosi's Dracula and Boris Karloff's Frankenstein.
Nice.
And I wouldn't typically call myself a vampire person, but I love the tragic romance of Dracula and what he brought to that character. And the same with Frankenstein, especially in Bride of Frankenstein. It's just this tragic love story that just cannot be.
Awesome. What film soundtrack do you listen to the most? It could be horror, it could be anything.
So the 2 that I listen to the most, it's definitely the Sport of Creep Show by John Harrison, and also the soundtrack to The Return of the Living Dead, because that's got some of my absolute favorite bands. It's got The Damned, The Cramps, it has the
45
Lost
Graves.
Boys. 45 Graves, yeah.
Right.
It has the Flesh Eaters that I absolutely love, and I got to see in concert a couple years ago.
Awesome. So now, excuse me, a weird question. So, I know you've met a lot of well-known actors.
I have.
What living actor that you haven't met would you like to have a cocktail with the most?
So the one that I have not met, who I know from Instagram and following his post stuff is sober, is I would love to meet David Naughton. So instead of a cocktail, we'd probably go and have coffee.
Yep.
But on the flip of that, the one do-over I would love to have is, do you remember at Fangoria years and years ago, they had that celebrity cocktail party if you were like the VIP gold person?
Yes.
Yeah. So I ended up at a table with Tom Savini, and I was so young. I had to be like 19, 20 at the time, and I was so shy because it was like one of my first experiences meeting people that I had admired for years.
Yeah.
And I was like just quiet as a mouse. So I would love to redo my cocktail party with Tom Savini.
And he would be awesome I've met him and I was shy as well. And from what I understand, if he doesn't know you, he's shy. So
yeah. It was a very awkward table at that moment because like we weren't talking and he weren't talking. So
Right.
But I'd just love to choose ear off about, the new Creepshow story that he wrote for that, the remake of Night of the Living Dead that he directed that I love, just so many
same
things.
Here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as you know, he's like a personal hero of mine.
Yeah.
I've my interest in makeup effects comes mainly from him.
Same.
And I studied him, and his work and his books, and just the fact that he's an actor, a director, a stuntman. I'm surprised he doesn't make music.
Yeah, same. And just Tom Savini and K&B Effects, they were big influence on me when I would ever try to do like effects makeup, which I used to do a lot, like with the TFO and stuff like that, but I have not ventured too much into nowadays.
Well, you actually did makeup effects on my movie. I mean, you did sound. You were like a makeup assistant on that.
Yeah, I helped out, yeah.
And that's another story. So I know you collect horror merch a lot. I've seen you collect like pins and things, and I'm assuming videotapes, posters, records.
I'm not too much into like the VHSs and the like props and things like that. So the bulk that I do now is I'm trying to live a more minimalistic lifestyle, and so it's mostly T-shirts and pins. But as far as like Joe Bob Briggs goes, I will buy anything that man puts out. So I've got socks and records and all that stuff.
So Joe Bob is basically like my Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Like your favorite thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I know that you worked with Joe Bob recently, like at
I did, this past June. Yeah.
And what's your favorite memory from working with him, or just favorite memory period?
I grew up with Joe Bob. I remember watching Monster Vision when it was on, and then once YouTube was a thing, I would go back and watch the old drive-in theater and his Joe Bob Dead Alive special he did. But my favorite memories, I have two. It's when he was first trying to get onto Shudder. And they had this big campaign where people send out videotapes of why they want Joe Bob on Shudder. And of course, I sent my video in, and they actually ended up using it as one of the promo clips for his Shudder special, the initial one, which was the 24-hour marathon. And they had sent me like a press release, like, we may use your video, but we may not, so just sign this thing. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Yeah. And when I was watching it and gearing up for the marathon, they showed it, and I was so thrilled because...
You must have done like the silent scream.
I did like
scream.
the hold my hands up to my face, like, ah. But with that, there were they only had 2 girls in that video promo, and it was myself and this wonderful lady named Crystal House, who was actually Joe Bob's editor for The Last Drive-In on Shudder. It was very special to me because it's one of the things I got to feel like I was very much involved in helping Joe Bob get onto Shudder, which he very well deserved, and it was a long time coming.
And I've seen you're active in the Joe Bob Facebook group.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And my second was obviously be getting to work with Joe Bob.
Yeah.
And Tim, who runs the Sinister Creature Con and Sac Horror and all that stuff, he had told me back in August of 2018 that they had been trying to get him for the October convention, but it didn't work out. And he told me that. I was like, well, why did you tell me that? Now I'm sad. And they said that they were going to try to get him for the June, and which of course they did. And it was just kind of unspoken that obviously I would be his assistant for the weekend. And
what's funny is I was actually at that show, and just because of timing, I think you and Joe Bob were in an auditorium, and like it was an empty table. I'm just like, oh, that figures.
Yeah, it's hard. Like sometimes you have to go to his panel, or you have to break or anything like that, and so you go with him. But it's one of those things when you are gearing up to meet somebody that you essentially idolize, who means so much to you, who you've never met before. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what to expect. And everybody knows I love Joe Bob. Everybody knows. And so when we got there that first Saturday, we always get there early and we help set up and everything. People are coming like, oh, I'm so excited for you. I'm like, me too. I'm like, okay, well, but be cool. I'm like, I'm going to be cool. I'll be awesome. It's going to be great. And, you know, you get all those anxious nerves and butterflies, but just as soon as he walked over, he is such a wonderfully sweet man. Just any nerves I had just went away automatically. And he's so gracious to his fans. He's gracious to be at the conventions and to meet people that work there. And we're both actors, and he has a long acting history. And just he was telling me stories about when he would study in New York and different films he worked on, how he got started in drive-in theater and Monster Vision and all that stuff. And it's one of those experiences that I would not have had if I had not been able to spend that weekend with Joe Bob. And it was fantastic.
And you know, that of course is like one of my favorite things to hear. You know, I've had both stellar experiences and nightmarish experiences with people that I've idolized. And you know, when you have that negative experience, you know, you never know what, if it's they're having a bad day or, you know, but it leaves this thing. And it's just, you know, I have posters that I don't hang up anymore because of one experience for someone that I idolize, like literally idolize. And just, okay. But, you know, on the positive, you know, I've had experiences where it's like, wow, we're friends. You know how that works.
Yeah, and like through Sinister Creature Con, because I am one of the liaisons, I've gotten to work with many, you know, big recognizable stars in the genre and people that I've personally admired and that I love. And I've worked with Nell Campbell from Rocky Horror twice. When I was growing up, she was a big influence on me. Right. And it could not have been better, and we just had the best time. And we worked together at the very first Sinister Creature Con, and then the one we did in Stockton, and she remembered me, and we just, like, picking up from old times. And I worked with Ted Raimi, and he was an absolute sweetheart.
Wow. Yeah,
and
I've heard nothing but good things about him.
Yeah, and in downtimes we would play Hangman, and he would ask me trivia questions for money, and he still owes me $2, by the way, for that. But everybody's been lovely. I'll say for one bad experience, which I won't talk about now because I don't want to put it out there. Every person that I've met there has been an absolute doll.
You know, on that note, someone that you and I both met that was awesome, and neither of us got enough time to talk with him, was Lance Henriksen.
Oh, yes.
He was wonderful. Really nice, yeah. And, you know, I've heard really good things about him. And so who knows? I'm going to, have you heard of Days of the Dead?
The convention?
Yeah.
Is that the one in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I'm going to that.
Is that where you're going to next month? Yeah.
Yeah. And, well, it's this month. It's like in 2 weeks.
And that's right, because we're in March now.
So, yeah, I'm curious how it's going to go down because of all of this coronavirus scare, you know, because all these things are being canceled, and it's like, ooh, I just booked my flights. It's like, I hope that doesn't get canceled. And it's like, well, if it gets canceled, I'll still have a Vegas vacation. Exactly.
There you go.
Now let's talk about acting. Who was your inspiration to act? Like, who did you model yourself off of? Or was there a particular film?
So I have a twin sister, and we're both actresses, and we're both very active in local theater and film and all that stuff. And we've been doing it since we were very, very young, with like dance recitals and things like that. And so I've always had an interest in acting. And I had a woman when I started middle school, because we went to performing arts middle school and high school, who kind of became my mentor and took me under her wing. And she was my acting teacher. I did technical theater for her, like I would do her lights and sounds and things like that. And she was let go from the school after a couple of years, but I still worked with her. And she had started a youth improv squad with any actor. That's another thing. Any actor who wants to do stage or film, do improv. Learn improv. It will save your life. It's a wonderful actor tool to have in your actor toolbox. But then after about a year or so of that, she basically told me that I was not talented enough to be an actor or an actress.
Wow.
And that just, it crushed me, because I was all of 13 at the time.
No,
it's
too young to say something like that.
I know, and it broke my heart, and it really, really devastated me. And I didn't do anything outside of technical theater and maybe an ensemble role for a very, very long time, because I was convinced, because my mentor, who I looked up to, told me that I was no good. And then when I got a little bit older, I decided, well, fuck it, I want to do it. I'm going to do it anyways. And so I say now, because of her, I act out of spite. I act despite her. And, obviously she was wrong, because I've had a very lucrative theatrical career here in town.
Yeah, and I know firsthand that she was wrong. Like, I've seen your work. Well, we worked together, and, you were solid. You were better than I was, because we were in teams together. And so the lesson there that I could say to our listeners, I don't know if there's anyone listening that would be doing the same crazy thing that I tried to do. Don't try to act in a movie that you're directing.
I thought you did great.
I don't. I reshot most of my stuff, and I'm still like, but I haven't, I haven't looked at it in like 5 years, and so who knows? Maybe my perspective
gosh, we shot that stuff almost 14 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, I would cringe if I saw that now, because I've worked so much and I've grown so much as an actor since then.
Yep, exactly. And so, well, we'll see it when we see it.
Exactly. Yeah, and just, maybe another piece of advice, if you want to do it, do it. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not good enough or you can't do it. If you have a passion for it, if you want to do it, just do it.
I agree. And also, on that note, just, like from my example, just, like your first time might not be that great, and just don't get discouraged. Just keep going.
Because the more you do it, the more you perform, the more you learn, the more you grow as an actor. So you don't have to take fancy classes. You don't have to do this, that, and the other thing. Just go out, audition, do shows, perform. I have a very open say yes policy. So if somebody wants me to do a show and I look at it, it's like, that could be fun, I'll do it. Sometimes it doesn't work out great, and I know it's like, well, I won't do that again. But as soon as you have an opportunity and you say no to it, you close that door, you shut that conversation down. Because you never know where one yes is going to lead you, as far as like acting and theater and film goes.
And I've seen it online. I haven't seen it in person. I know that you're doing hosting, like for Sac Horror Film Fest.
I do, yeah.
And so your theatrical background obviously comes in handy there. And I think you're improv, too.
Exactly. Yeah, because you're hosting movies, you're doing Q&As with actors and directors. Films can break, things can go wrong, and you have to be able to just get up there and hold the crowd long enough to get whatever it is fixed.
Yep. Something that you and I both have in common right now is we both work with the public.
Yep.
And both have like our alter egos, I guess you'd call it. We have our public face and then our private creative face. So how do you balance working with the public with your creative pursuits?
I'm very fortunate that I get to work very early in the morning, so I'm able to have time for myself to go out and do my theater, my performing and things like that, a little thing that hinders me is I'm also a night owl. So on a typical work day, I'll get maybe 3 hours of sleep. But it's been like that for years, and that's just how I run. And I feel, though, that my acting helps me a lot with my public, speaking voice and how I meet people, because it's very easy to talk to people and get through the day in customer service.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I deal with some of the same things. The things that I usually end up dealing with, I like dealing with customers or, in my profession, patrons. I get to talk about books and movies all day. So, what's wrong with that? And sometimes music. Yeah. And that's like the coolest thing in the world to me. But sometimes, it's coworkers that, for me personally, and then I have to like shut my ego down. It's like, stop. I start to get angry, and it's like, okay. And that's like kind of what you're saying. Okay, just act. Yeah. Keep everything internal.
I'm very fortunate in the fact that I get to work with some of who have become my very best friends. And through theater, through the TFO, which is how we met, some of these people that I've met through there are the dearest to me, as well as some of the coworkers that I've met through my years working the job that I do. And it just, if you have enough of those people, it makes your job so much easier. Sure. And every now and again, you'll get a bad egg in the bunch. But in my experience, I've had some really awesome coworkers. And they come to my shows. They support me. They'll listen to me gab on about Joe Bob Briggs, even though they don't really care, but they let me do it.
So they're like family.
Exactly. And that's what, especially in a town like Sacramento, where it's such a small theater community. And I only say that because you have some people who are extremely active in theater and they do a ton of shows like myself, and then people who are more like, maybe one show every couple of years. But you do become like a family, and you support one another, and you love one another, and you want to see these people thrive in their chosen art form. And it's the same with TFO, it's the same with a work family. They want you to thrive and survive in what you are doing.
On that note, before we get to the last question, is there anything you want to plug? This will be going out in the next week.
Okay, I have 2 shows coming up. So the one that I am in rehearsal for right now opens on March 13th, Friday the 13th, and it's called Maple and Vine. And it's at the Thistledew Theater on 19th and P Street, and that's through Errant Phoenix Productions. And then the show I'm doing directly after that is an adult evening of Shel Silverstein, and that runs April 17th through May 9th, and that is with Resurrection Theater at 25th and R Street.
Cool. That sounds, well, yeah, I'm right down the street from Thistledew. And so I'll have to check out. I'll be at both, scheduling permitting.
You finally get to see me act.
Yeah.
Outside of like TFO stuff in the movie that we did together.
Yep. Final question. What's the one question you'd like to ask me? Anything?
And I was toying with this, and we've known each other for a very long time now. And I know so much about your love of horror and how you got into horror and the music that you love and the movies that you love. And I know you recently got married, and congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. I'm
very happy for you in that. I'm very happy for your health and your progress.
Thank you.
And how you're doing. My question for you is, what do you see for yourself in the future?
Okay. So, that's a good question. Well, continuing doing this, more interview hosting, kind of mentoring, that's kind of my purpose here is, encouraging creative people that are considering pursuing their dreams to really do it, and then talking to creatives and asking them about how do you do it and how do you do it. In the immediate future, something that I kind of danced around is I'm actually going to have a web show about the making of Whispers and Shadows.
Nice.
And you're going to be in it. I think I've mentioned that I have lots of, well, of course I've got lots of footage, but I got
Yeah,
new
exactly.
footage back. So, behind the scenes, I had people filming us on that first night the first 2 nights of Raise the Dead.
That was fun. That was a fun experience.
And so that's why I brought up, you helping, and, because I was watching the footage back. I was like, oh, yeah, Bethany was in there just helping me glue down those foam latex appliances. And so I'm not sure what it's going to be called yet, but it's going to be kind of a cautionary tale. Don't do it the way I did it, or, maybe it's more like, here's where I made a mistake, here's where I've made another mistake. Another mistake.
I mean, I don't know, how you feel about it, but I can just say, even though it was so long ago, I remember I had a great time, and I loved being able to do that with you.
I did too, and it was, it was, it's like cliche. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. So that's something I'll be getting into in the podcast. Getting into why I had to step away from it.
Yeah,
and why I'm even now apprehensive and afraid. My fear before, lots of things that I've talked about on recent podcasts, including the one that's going to come up tomorrow, is like my fear of failure and my fear of success. The ego and the insecurities, how those are all tied together. With Whispers and Shadows, there was a point where I thought, as you know, you were in the segment. Well, you were in 2 segments. You were in the Asmodeus segment about cursed film, and then for a while, it felt like my film was really cursed. It's like, oh, okay. And so now, in retrospect, it's like, oh, no, it's being tested. And, I don't know if I could say I succeeded or I failed, because I got the bare minimum done and then just stopped everything. It's like, put the brakes on. I had to go back to normal life. And so, so the priority is continuing this. The Whispers and Shadows show or series, it's going to be a limited series, of course, because I can't go too far into that, because it's also building up to actually releasing the film.
Right.
And but beyond that, I've got 2 sequels. Well, I've got a sequel. I have a Whispers and Shadows 2, and I have another project, completed screenplay, and I don't want to do another Whispers and Shadows as the next one. The one I want to do next, it's like the technology and my own technical skill has advanced quite a bit in the last, 15 years?
15, 14 years, yeah.
So, for example, I've been shooting music videos for friends of mine, and the last one I did, I had half of it on a DSLR, a Canon DSLR, which is really nice and looks great. And then just out of necessity, it died. And so I ended up shooting the second half of the video on my iPhone. And that was a wake-up call. It's like, oh, yeah, my iPhone can shoot HD video better than the camera that I used on Whispers and Shadows, which was a really nice camera. You remember that thing. And so,
technology has advanced in the last 15 years.
And so I'm taking full advantage of that. Even as far as the software that I use, my video editing software is, I taught myself a whole new streamlined, new fangled software, as they say, what the kids are using. Instead of this kind of archaic software, well, archaic now, tech just changes, from month to month.
Right.
And so, I'm just continuing that path.
Well, great. That's wonderful.
And, of course, I'm really hardcore pursuing my visual art now.
And you do great work. I've always loved your work.
Thank you. And with that, it was, the stroke that I had. I had 5 weeks of being bedridden, pretty much, and lots of time to reflect. As I say, it came back to life. I mean, literally. Right. I should have died, and
we're all very glad that you didn't.
Yeah, and I've said on other podcasts, my wife saved my life. She literally did. She found me in the bathroom, and something else that I'll just say, because I've addressed the stroke, and I had a coworker asking me about it recently. people don't understand. It's, in some of the comments they're saying, I'm sorry you went through all that pain. It's like, there's no pain with a stroke. It was, I had no idea what was happening. And then somebody said, oh, well, I can't move, and I'm on the floor. And I don't know what's happening. So during my recovery, I talked to lots of people that had strokes. And I heard that same story. Like, people were at McDonald's, and they'd had a stroke, and then they drove home, and they're like, why can't I drive my car?
Right.
That's scary. And so, there's stuff that my wife and I are working on, like a kind of informative, hopefully educational and entertaining thing that's going to be like a performance piece. It might be a TED Talks. We're working it out. So also my wife is a stand-up comedian.
Oh,
so
yeah.
She's a performer too. And so she's on top of this, so what we're talking about is maybe a show that will film, it'll definitely be performed live. It's going to be very theatrical because it's her and then it's me. And so it's her telling her side of the story. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't go too far into that. But it will be funny, educational, and inspiring.
Well, that's great. It's wonderful that you can take this event that happened to you and turn it into a positive and something that you can share.
And that was a thing, because I had to go through all kinds of, you saw the video and pictures of that online of my physical recovery.
Right,
So there was a cognitive therapy too, because I had, and I still do have brain damage from the stroke. And so during that, like with my cognitive therapist, one of the things I told her, I was working on, like I had my Etsy shop up, and so that was something I could focus on. They're training me on how to type again and asking me mathematical and logic questions and making sure that my brain was okay. And, I lost some bits of memory, and my speech sometimes is a little affected. But, if I take it slow, it's okay. It's like my walking. If I take my walk slow, I can walk fine, where you wouldn't know I had
slow
any
and steady
stroke.
wins the way. Yeah.
And so my mantra there was, I don't want to just get better. I want to get better than I was before the stroke. And so physically, I'm almost there. I did a 5K with my wife.
Yeah, I saw that.
September. And what was funny was it was a stroke awareness 5K, and it was a huge mob of people. And so we couldn't run. I had trained to run. I can run if I want to. That was the whole thing. It's like I wanted to have that option. And so I walk really fast, and I walk with a cane, and the cane is mainly for other people to know. It's like, don't try to walk into me. You've seen that, I've seen you run into each other down, downtown.
By the Capitol,
And the state workers are the worst,
they're the worst.
And just staring at their phones. And it's that thing of, I've already worked through, it's like I was pissed off at them for being so self-centered. That's like, well, wait a minute. Their job has made it, and the technology has made it where they can't just walk and get a cup of coffee now. They're still on, and they have to look at their phone. Some of them walk around watching videos and laughing, and, I've seen them walk right into the middle of the street in front of cars. So,
Yeah, no, I know.
That's about it.
Well, I have a funny story. Yeah.
Okay,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I have
stories.
a funny story about when we were filming our stuff for Whispers and Shadows, and I don't know if you remember this, but when we were filming the short that you and I did together for the movie, my grandmother had passed during that time.
I remember that, yes.
Yeah.
And I remember what I bought for you.
I do. I remember it, too. I still have it. Obviously, I would still have it. And I very much love it, and thank you again for that.
You're welcome.
But you lived not too far away from my grandmother's house, which my sister was living at the time. That was kind of like the meeting ground for all the family coming in. And we were filming the scene, and I don't know if I can say this, but a very pivotal scene where I was doing something at the end of that scene.
I know what you're talking about.
And I had two cousins that were in town from Oregon, and they had to come and pick me up and take me back to wherever the family was meeting for that evening.
Sure, I remember them.
Yeah, and we had just wrapped up that scene. and I was still hunched where I was with the prop that I had when they knocked on the door and you let them in. I was just still kind of cowering there, and the look on their faces when they saw that, I'll never forget. It was so funny.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird. There were lots of people that came and experienced, some of that filming.
Yeah.
I had friends that would come and watch some of the rehearsals, and I filmed some of the rehearsals. And but yeah, that was funny. Yeah, I remember
it was very funny. Yeah,
So,
I know. It was great. It was great.
And in talking about that, my idea of the curse, that was you actually triggered that memory for me. Like I remember with your grandma passing, I was like, oh, see, it's part of the curse. I was just paranoid. I'm thinking everything that's bad that's happening is part of some curse that's on me. When it's like I wrote something cursed, and now I'm making something cursed, and this is what's happening. And then the opposite was actually happening. The thing in retrospect is that I would share to anyone that's trying to ever make a movie or write a book or perform a play or write a play, any kind of creative endeavor. Once you start doing it, there's going to be adversity. That's called life. And there's also something else that comes in, a positive force. I don't know if it's like a spiritual thing or if it's just positive neurons. But things would fall into place.
Right.
Like you remember where I lost the location for Asmodeus.
Yes.
And I've told this story before, like that Richard had found out and called me up while I was at a friend's house. He said, so, it was 2 weeks before he was coming. And he's like, so I hear you lost the location. I was like, yep.
Yeah.
And then, and I lied to him. I was like, but I've got a new one. He's like, okay, good. So we're still on. I was like, yep, we're still on. And so I had to go hustle to find a new location. And the person that actually helped me find a new location was Mr. Lobo.
Oh, Lobo's great. I love Lobo.
Yeah. And because of that, I filmed at the Garlands Closet in Benicia and then became friends.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And Chuck is great, too.
Yep. And so that adversity turned into this really awesome thing that still goes on. Chuck and I are still friends. And
same.
And I'm sitting in it's basically my makeshift dining area that's in my office right now, surrounded by much stuff, and a lot of it, of course, is Chuck's creation.
Of course. So, he's very, very talented artist.
Yep, he is. So it's that thing of, I told my friend that I was shooting a music video for on our first shoot, and I just remembering some of those lessons from Whispers and Shadows. I said, you're doing something positive, and so learn to roll with it. Learn that, that something's going to test you, and roll with it. Just keep going. If you stop, whatever that adversity is, wins.
Right.
So, yeah, that's my long-winded answer to your final question. But I appreciate your
answer.
Whispers and Shadows story, too.
Absolutely.
Which is really funny, yeah. And I think I have video of them that,
Oh, do you really?
Maybe.
That's
so I was
great.
shooting everything. I'll have to look.
No, that'd be hilarious if you did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
and
I think we've covered it, but I mean, unless you have something more.
No, that's all I have.
Okay, awesome.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for your time. And
absolutely.
Music and Monsters. You are watching Music and Monsters.
Music and Monsters, the art of Jace Whitman. Please visit www.musicandmonsters.com.